morning to everyone and welcome you to our town hall, the Stras Center's town hall, the first of what will be many of these gatherings. We are so thankful that you are here with us. Thank you, everybody that's on Facebook Live, and thanks to everybody who is in the room here with me. And I just came to realize a few minutes ago that being in the room has a whole new meaning, and that's another story. We'll talk about it at another time. But we're really honored to have some very dear guests in the room and members of our executive staff. So I'll start out by introducing myself. I'm Fred Johnson. I serve at the Stras Center as a community engagement specialist and also as artist in residence. Honored to have had a long history with the Stras. I was actually the first person to perform here back in 1987 when it first opened up. So the Stras Center has been very near and dear to my heart for a long time. I'm joined by the Director of Community Engagement. We work in tandem with each other in terms of community engagement, Miss Alice Santana. Alice, welcome. The Chief Operating Officer for the Stras Center, Mr. Lauren Shepard. The President and CEO of the Stras Center, Miss Judy Lisi. Our very dear partner and associate who has been connected so many years in connection with education, Miss Jerry Kelly. Mr. Bob Morrison, who presently serves as the Executive Director of the Hillsborough County Hotel and Motel Association. Tampa historian, educator, and former city administrator, Mr. Fred Hearns. Welcome, Fred. From the University of South, sounds like a football thing, from the University of South Florida's Dance and Theater Department, a true dance icon in the country and someone who has been very influential and supportive of our artwork here at the Stras Center for many years, Mr. John Parks. And the Patel Conservatory of the Stras Center, the Vice President of Education and Community Engagement, Suzanne Livesay. So we welcome you all here to the room as we begin our opportunity to really communicate with the community about the Stras Center's expanded commitment to really work towards the articulation of inclusion, diversity, equity, and access to the Stras Center. And we all know that the challenges of racial injustice have been apparent in our world in America since its inception. Many changes have occurred over the years, but many people of color in America still struggle with the challenges of disadvantaged situations, still struggle with the reality of the byproduct of racial discrimination and Jim Crow. And the unfortunate death of George just a few weeks ago really touched everyone's heart and everyone's minds. I was talking to a colleague just a couple of days ago who said that she really believed that the COVID-19, of which we struggle with, it slowed America down some, and it took away some of the distractions so that when the terrible loss of life, the taking of George Floyd's life occurred, some of those distractions were there, and Americans were horrified. Americans were reminded of the challenges that are faced by people of color in America. And a new conversation has begun, an expanded conversation has begun about the importance of addressing and transcending, transforming America from an America that still has racism and still has systemic racism to a country that recognizes and acknowledges all humanity, acknowledges the Black lives in America, acknowledges the sacrifices and the challenges that people of color have faced, and not just here in Tampa Bay, but throughout our nation. Specifically speaking about performing arts centers and institutions that are connected to the arts, there's a new conversation, a truer conversation. And the Stras Center for the Performing Arts, we choose to stand at the forefront of taking a look at that which we need to do, that which we must do to create those changes that create greater opportunity, create greater inclusion, create greater diversity, equity, both within those who work in our institution and in terms of our relationship and our connection to the community. And this is the reason why we have chosen to do these town halls. And I want you to know that Judy Lisi, who I introduced earlier, who is the president and CEO, was the first person to say, what's the first thing that we can do to really begin a journey to connect to the community? As many of you may know, or as many of you may not know, the Stras Center for the Performing Arts, like many institutions in our country who rely upon people coming into our buildings, we are closed and have been closed since March. We have no audiences now, but we haven't stopped, we haven't shut down. We continue to do all that we can, mostly virtual, to really be connected to our community. And we've made the decision that now is the time for us to not only proclaim, but to have actions that we begin to work on immediately towards a greater, deeper commitment to our community and a deeper commitment to inclusion, equity, and diversity. This was a proclamation that went out a week or so ago, but we wanted to really create the opportunity to go through this 10-point action plan, and I'll read what the proclamation said initially. We at the Stras Center are committed to being an anti-racist organization. We will expand the depth and breadth of opportunities for Black, Indigenous, and people of color, including staff, artists, board members, and community members. This commitment is ongoing and represents our desire to create and nurture an organizational culture that espouses anti-racism, equity, and belonging throughout the entire Stras family. We devote ourselves to setting higher standards for how we conduct ourselves and our business day and how we interact with our community. Led by the Stras Center's community engagement team, we are building on work that has already begun at the Stras. Below, what I'm about to read are the 10 points which we will prioritize and weave throughout the fabric of our institution. These are not intended to be immediate solutions, but rather interactive strategies that will help us reach our goals over time to foster anti-racism within the organization and across the performing arts. And these are the 10 points. Point number 1, conduct internal and external listening and learning sessions in order to implement an organizational learning plan, enabling all in our organization to recognize the societal challenges of Black, Indigenous, and people of color while rejecting white privilege in all its forms. Number 2, to diversify further our recruitment and hiring practices with an emphasis on executive leadership and upper level management positions. Number 3, to increase board member diversity. Number 4, to create a mentorship program in arts administration for Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Number 5, to provide training and enrichment opportunities for internal Black, Indigenous, and people of color staff to encourage career advancement. Number 6, to create a community engagement external advisory committee. Number 7, to expand current internal diversity, equity, and inclusion committee by transitioning to an IDEA, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Access Committee model in alignment with national diversity conversations. Number 8, to increase intentional representation to amplify the voices of Black, Indigenous, and person of color artists on our stages through programming branded as Black Stories Matter. Conduct monthly town halls, each focused on a piece created by a Black, Indigenous, or person of color artist, or to honor an icon or someone in the Black community who has made unbelievable contributions and has really advanced the Tampa Bay community overall. Number 9, conduct monthly town halls, each focused on a created piece. And number 10, to continue to grow community partnerships to provide arts education and social issue conversations in schools which serve Black, Indigenous, and people of color students and their families. 10 points that the Stras Center is committed to. That's a lot, and it's not expected for you to memorize those, but these have actually gone out publicly, and they will continue to be presented to the community so that the community can really understand that we do have action plans and have begun on many of those. You know, I've had the good fortune, as I said, of being involved with the Performing Arts Center since 1987 when it first opened. In 1995, I came to the center as a staff member. I was vice president of education and humanities for 10 years. I was involved in some of the beginnings of efforts to really combine and connect to the community. And what Suzanne Livesay and Alice and the education department at the Patel Conservatory has done over the last 8 or 9 years has just been phenomenal in terms of really reaching out. There has always been an effort to present art. There has always been an effort to be an institution that is open and representative. But like all of America, we know that it's never been enough. We understand that it's never been enough. And the challenges that I face in my life as an artist, the challenges that we face in our lives, understanding that we've so much farther to go. These steps are definitive steps and a definitive commitment to really move forward and to do all that we can to support the community, to enrich the relationship at the center. And as was mentioned, the mentorship program to really work towards giving the opportunity for Black and Indigenous people of color that are really looking to develop careers in the arts, to get that foundation. That's hard to get anyway, but to really be intentional about creating that foundation so that folk can go on, not just here in Tampa Bay, but really be in a competitive place throughout the nation. And these are conversations that are happening nationwide with performing arts centers nationwide. And as Judy has said in many conversations and staff meetings that we have, we want to be leaders. We want to lead in that effort. And we know that we cannot do that by ourselves. And we know that it's important for us to expand our partnership and our connection with the community. This is why we've made this commitment to do this on a monthly basis. I open the floor to give Lauren or Judy or Suzanne or Alice the opportunity to expound upon what I've said. As we go through our conversation throughout the evening, friends, we'll revisit some of the specificity of those 10 points. We wanted to give them to you overall, give you the opportunity to understand some things that are already happening, and then help to give an idea in terms of how we're moving forward, albeit we're closed, but we're not closed in terms of our intentionality. We're not closed in terms of shifting infrastructure, gaining knowledge and understanding, and preparing ourselves so that when we are fully open again, we will be in a position to move forward and we won't be at a starting point. Anybody like to share? Lauren, perhaps?
Well, as many of you know, Fred is a jazz vocalist, among other things. And he started us off here with a really good sense of rhythm. And you can hear it in his voice, and you can feel it in his conviction. And he does, I tell you, he speaks for me. He speaks for he speaks for us and what we want to achieve here. I go to the first of the declarations that at its heart says listening and learning. And listening is something that I've learned in leadership is of great value. And I need to do more of it. And I'm listening hard these days and learning a lot. And I will gladly support opportunities for people to come and be heard, and then to learn from it and move that into actions that we've mentioned in the declarations and others. We, at the heart of what we do here, is to tell the human story, and the good art, or art that is appreciated and held up as being fine and well done, is frequently referred to as one that accurately reflects the human experience. And we have a lot of good art to produce now. Often there are tragic sides to that, but through that comes community coming together and the opportunity for us to serve as a central place of acknowledgement and moving forward in a unified way. And thank you, Fred.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. And I mean, that is a conversation that's had oftentimes and has been had oftentimes over the years at the Stras Center. And Judy, I know that many, many, many times in terms of speaking about our commitment as an arts institution or as artists, we have both the opportunity and a responsibility to touch people's hearts, to share with people those things that will empower our humanity. I remember the first time that I heard you say that, it really was an inspiration to me, because as an artist, I always wanted to be able to touch and have people be moved by art. And there's a huge conversation now about the fact that as artists and as an arts institution, we really do have an opportunity to remind people of our humanity and of our hearts. And I know that you stand for that a lot as we move forward. How do you feel about this movement as we move forward together?
Thank you, Fred. And Fred, I just want to publicly thank you for all that you have offered, not only the Stras Center, but our community over the years. You, as I said earlier, you really have been a spiritual leader. And the truth is, while we have always felt that we wanted to be open, I think we have all come to a new place in this last couple of months where we realize as we heard today in the John Lewis funeral, we are on our way. We are nowhere near where we need to be. But I think we all feel so inspired to walk side by side together and become a more perfect place. We could create a perfect place. What I love about the work that we do is, if you think about it, the arts are very spiritual. They always have been. They come from a place of spirituality. And as Lauren said, they do tell our human story. And they are about connecting people. And in a way, when you walk into that theater, it's like a secular temple. We all leave our differences at the doorstep, and we come together to see a ritual on stage, no matter what it is, and we participate in it together. And we come together as humans as we enjoy and celebrate that experience, and we learn about our human condition. And so I think performing arts centers play such an important role in a community. And while we have tried, we have a wonderful board director named Jean Marshall. When we were starting our diversity program, and he said, we really have to do more. And I said, and he said, yeah, Jean said, his name Jean Marshall, he said, I know you do when you try. He said, but Judy, it has to be intentional and it has to be more. And he started us on that journey, but we all know now we have to do way more. It's just the beginning. We need a jet propulsion. And we're all so enthused. I think the irony is we're closed. And yet, in a way, we're more open than we've ever been before talking about these things. And so I just appreciate everyone coming together so we can work together to try to bring our wonderful Tampa community. And I have to say, I've been here now for 28 years. We have a beautiful community, a beloved community, and we want to make it better than ever. So I just thank everyone who's on the panel tonight and our staff who worked so hard to make our community a wonderful place to live, and our panelists for helping to join us. And I want to say something about white privilege. It is what it is. It's white privilege. We all know that. We have to be aware of it and conscious of it. And I mean, at some point, I look at my grandson, who's 8 years old. I want him to enjoy a country where everybody has privilege. Everybody needs to have the same privilege. And that's what we want to get to. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Thank you. Suzanne, you wanna share anything?
Yeah, I think it's been really incredible as we're seeing some changes, and it's almost like tuning into a frequency on a radio, if that's an okay analogy to use. Is it something that has been out there and has been clearly stated on frequencies that perhaps folks within the white community haven't tuned into, and they should be tuned into it. And so, and some people are tuned into to a certain level. And I'd say that I'm really sensing a tremendous amount of openness, which I think is really, really pivotal, and we can really make some change. And one of the areas just within the education community, within the Stras Center, there was such an infinite emphasis within the dance community right away, which I'm sure Mr. Parks is aware of. And our head of our dance department, Philip Neal, kind of jumped on that right away and made it really clear what he felt like we needed to do on that blackout day, and made some really, really clear statements that I think are extremely important, specifically in the ballet community. And from there, they have been able to hold a similar town hall within Next Generation Ballet. They did that really quickly and have gotten some really great feedback. And the part that I love about that is that it's the impetus for us to be able to continue those conversations. When we talk about, those 10 points that we made that we really want to see happen within education, as far as making those internal discussions happening more frequently and opening our ears and hearts and minds to those things, that's already beginning to happen, even in a closed conservatory and Stras Center. And that's something that we're committing to moving forward with as this school year really takes off, hopefully in September, making that a focus of what we do. In addition, I think already we have had some camps back on campus this summer, and we're in week 4 this week of 5 weeks that we're offering. And we had our choral and chamber intensive last week, and making choices like choosing works by Black composers, which in the past we've chosen those, but have we been really intentional about that? Have we really started looking and making sure that we're choosing pieces that are celebrating the tremendous talent and the tremendous artistic ability that continues on, not only to celebrate those folks, but also for exposure to everyone that comes into our conservatory and comes through our education program. So a few very minor little successes that I feel like we really we would consider a platform for really taking off, for where we're going to try to think differently and try to consider that more intentionally. Some baby steps in the right direction. And I'm excited for that. I'm excited for how open my staff is. And as we look at that, there are specific ways that all of those 10 points, I feel like in education at the Stras Center, we can make them apply and hold each other accountable to it. So I'm looking forward to how we're going to move forward with that.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thank you so much. And one of the first threads in that tapestry is to connect to the community. We all know in our travel and the work that we do in and through the many, many communities that we're engaged with, that there's still a significant number of folk in the community who don't really understand the full breadth of the Stras Center, don't fully understand all of the programs and activities that happen, don't fully get an understanding of how are we defining performing arts. And actually in a wonderful conversation that I had prior to this with Bob Morrison, who I'll introduce in a second, talked about the fact that the perception of the performing arts is different from community to community. And so to be able to create an opportunity for us to come together, to share our thoughts, to share our histories, to share our understandings, to regain new sense of understanding begins just like this, by having conversations. So we'll move now and welcome again our panelists, our guests that are with us. I'll ask you to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about, you know, your relationship and your connection, and then some comments, and then we'll move through. We'll start with Mr. Bob Morrison, who currently serves as the executive director for the Hillsborough County Hotel and Motel Association, has worked with a couple of mayors and has a really, really, really rich history in Tampa. So Bob, welcome to the town.
Fred, thank you so much. And to Judy, Lauren, Alice, Suzanne, I appreciate the fact that you're understanding how critical this step is and how meaningful it can be for our community. As Fred indicated, that I've been involved in a number of areas in the city over the years, but I think for this night, it's maybe appropriate for me to take us back to 1979. I had just come back to Tampa, had finished law school, passed the bar exam, practicing law, and then met a young man who was running for mayor by the name of Bob Martinez. Mayor, then candidate Bob Martinez, had two and only two planks in his campaign arsenal. One was bringing quality jobs to Tampa. Things he needed, he knew from corner to corner, this was a critical piece to make Tampa what Tampa possibly could be. The second was to build a performing arts center. Those were the only two objectives he had in running for mayor. He ran against, he had 7 other opponents, and he won on the first ballot with 57% of the vote. So coming on board, he asked me to join him, and soon the Performing Arts Center became a critical piece to the discussion of what would make this his administration successful. And he came up with a concept called the penny for the arts. And what I want to share with you is a story and a sharing that I had with the leadership team after that effort to have the citizens of Hillsborough County adopt a penny sales tax for the arts, which was built the Performing Arts Center. Once it failed, we did a postmortem. And what was interesting was the initiative didn't win any precincts in South Tampa, didn't win any precincts in Brandon, but the initiative won every precinct of color in Hillsborough County. And the question that was being bounced around was why, or how? How did that happen? And what did that mean? What did we miss? It allowed me to tell this story in our community, and certainly Jerry and Fred can, Fred and Fred Hearns can amen this. In our community, the performing arts always meant more than opera and the orchestra. But I think during that time when we spoke about performing arts, the only picture that came to mind or that was pictured were tails and evening dresses and tuxedos. And it turned off so many. But in our community, when you said performing arts, yes, you were talking choirs in our churches. Yes, you were talking dance. Yes, you were talking marching bands. There was a legendary rivalry between Blake and Middleton High School, and Blake High School's band was led by the legendary T.J. Simpson. Middleton's band was led by the legendary Dr. Michael Rodriguez, and they went toe to toe. So, and when we talked about performing arts, we talked about folks a community that was immersed in the beauty and the tapestry of what the term performing arts meant, even to a point where I mentioned, and I should share that, and I'll close with this. My mother is 89 years old now. She taught music in the public school system at Dunbar and Open Potter and Nat Franklin, and Nat Orange Grove. Got her master's at USF. And during that time, she would have parents who had little or nothing, making the sacrifice to bring their children to her home to be able to learn piano as it should be taught. And the irony was it went from families with little or nothing to folks that you all would all know, like a Leroy Selman, who would bring his children to her for piano lessons and sit in her foyer as he listened. But he made the sacrifice to drive to East Tampa because he understood, and we as a community understand, how critical the performing arts are to making a community whole. I'm so glad that we're having this moment. I'm so glad to be a part of understanding how far the Performing Arts Center has come. Judy, I've said to you too many times, the pivot took place when you came on board. And I'm grateful for the invitation. I look forward to the dialogue, and I'm telling you that you are, and we are in a community that is waiting to be tapped, that's been ignored for too long, but the time has finally arrived. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so very, very much. Honored now to bring to our microphone, I guess that we would say, someone who I had the opportunity to first meet when she was an active educator, an active principal. Early on, years ago, went to her school to help to put together some arts programs for her. She is an educator. She has been helped to be responsible for the accreditation of the Patel Conservatory. Is both an educator and an artist herself, and has truly been a community innovator and have touched many, many lives through the arts. It's really an honor to have Jerry Kelly. Jerry, welcome to our gathering.
And I want to thank you as well, and want to say this is such an honor because this is something that has touched my heart for years, is to see the growth and diversity at the Stras Center. And during the time that we were working on accreditation, I saw a lot going on in terms of some of the diversity that a lot of people don't know about. They really don't. I said it so many times, this is the best kept secret in Tampa. I went to Dunbar. I went to Blake. I actually went to Metropolitan Ministry. I went out to Sulphur Springs. I saw diversity. I saw it with the staff, and I saw it with the children, and I saw the excitement. At Dunbar, I was blown away at what kinds of things were going on there. And I thought, wow, we've got to do more than this. We're only in the South area. It's got to move further down so that others can see what's going on and what can happen, what could actually happen in the arts. It's so many children out there that would excel even more if they were involved in the arts. This is something that I stressed at Lockhart when I was principal there. I stressed it at USF when I was there. I stressed the arts. I started with the Patel and with the Stras Center when it first started off. At the Stras, we performed Bay Community Players. I don't know if you all know Anna Brennan. I don't want to say it because I know everybody knows Anna. But Anna called me up one night and she says, Jerry, why don't we put your young people on stage at the Stras Center? We were in the Jade. It was so, I mean, it just was so great to see their faces, the fact that they were able to experience the different things that would go on in a theater, not just a hall, but a theater. And so I know that this is something that is going to be great for us in this community. We did Colored Girls. I wouldn't do it again if you paid me, but we did Colored Girl. We also did Bubbling Brown Sugar in Ferguson Hall. We came with First Friday. I don't know if you all remember First Friday, but it really supported a lot of the arts, and it pushed for us to do things in places that we would not have normally done it. We did a soldier's play, one of the largest. The set was actually built on stage. And so I know how those faces look when they experience that. My church recently came down 2 years in a row to do Christmas. People that were amateurs had never, ever been on a real stage. And let me tell you something that an 89-year-old lady said one night. We actually have this written, I believe, on our website, church website. She said, wow, I've never been in a place like this. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. My pastor was blown away because he thought everybody had been to the Stras. Well, that's not the case with our Black children, and it's certainly not the case with some of our Black adults. Our older people have not had that experience, and that was one of the goals of First Baptist Church of College Hill, was to see that all of the people got that experience in the arts. How do you behave when you walk into a theater? What do you do when they have the intermission? All those things are things that our young children need to really get more involved in so they can love the arts. It's in my blood, it's in my soul. And so I'm so encouraged because this is something that I have advocated forever. And so thanks, Fred, for putting it together. And thanks, Judy, for accepting and being there to say, yes, go for it. Thank you, Suzanne. You know my heart is in the theater and would love to see a lot more done. But I want to say there is a lot going on that a lot of people don't know about, and it is diversity.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you, thank you. This next gentleman here, who is a distinguished member of the Tampa Bay community. He is a historian. He too is an educator. He ran the Department of Community Affairs, which is where I think we first met. I think the first time we were in the same space, we were close to each other and somebody called out Fred and we both looked and I said, oh, Mr. Fred Hearns, it's an honor to have you here with us, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yes.
Thank you, Fred and Judy and all the staff here at the Stras. I just have to say, looking at the commitment that you made and those 10 points, I am just blown away. I think this is a model that can be used throughout this community and other communities. I don't know if you're the first organization to do this here in Tampa Bay, but I hope you'll share this with others because this is really what we all should have been doing a long time ago. I commend you for putting it in writing. You know, it's one thing to make a comment to somebody or make a speech. You've put it in writing. You've documented it. You have signed it and said that this is something we are committed to. Call on me to help you do whatever I can to make this a reality. I do want to make just a couple of comments because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I live in St. Petersburg now, but I come to Tampa once or twice a week, and no matter what I have to do, and Bob, you'll appreciate this, I always drive back through the community I grew up in East Tampa. And last week I actually parked and walked around. It's a vacant lot now, but I look at where I grew up in my grandmother's house, and I walk around and I look at the neighborhood, and you know what? Not a lot has changed since I was a child. We have some paved sidewalks now. I know some sewers were put down a few years ago, but I saw some kids playing in the area where I was walking on the street I grew up on. And I said, they have no clue what they are missing because they have not been exposed to some of the things that I was even exposed to in the schools. One thing about the segregated schools, they gave our young people, and we didn't really appreciate it then, we just thought, we took it for granted. We thought everybody had the same experiences. They exposed us to so many things that the children today in our public schools are not exposed to. I know they're not. I've talked to some band directors, and you know, Blake High School is a performing arts school. So of course, those kids are skilled. Many of them started first, second grade. They're doing quite well. But in many of the other schools, you know, I started out in second grade and went all the way through 12th grade playing clarinet. And I just thought that's the way it was. We learned these things from some excellent people. And yeah, Prof. Rodriguez was a genius. And so was Mr. Simpson. They gave up careers. I'm sure they could have made a lot more money as musicians or band leaders or whatever. But they chose to stay in Tampa and work with young African-American students who they saw potential in, and they knew how to bring that potential out. So today, and Fred, let me say, the first time that I met you, you were doing these plays with children out of public housing. Fred had 75 kids on stage, and every one of them had a part. Every one of them had something they were trained to do. And I'm saying to myself, how in the world did he train all these kids to be so disciplined? And they were so happy and they were so excited because they were on stage and they were performing, and their parents and their aunts and uncles were out in the audience giving them applause, and everybody was so happy. That's what we have to continue to do, to reach out to these kids, to make sure they're getting. The public schools have so many requirements now, so many exams. Jerry, you were a principal that they have to prepare these students for, and they're expected to make the grades. And now the schools are graded, A, B, C, what have you. So everybody's trying to make an A, and the arts get left behind. I know they do in many situations. So you play a critical role in this community. Take that 10-point platform and share it with as many other CEOs, Judy, as you can. They need to see what I saw when I got this in the email the other day, and I looked at it and I said to myself, they're serious. The Stras Center is serious about this. We can't just say that we're against racism. It's not enough to say I'm not a racist. You have to be intentional. You have to be anti-racist, as you have said in writing, that you are. It's beautiful. And I want to support whatever you're doing in any way that I can. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much for all you do and you know, for all that you have done all these many years and continue to do. You know, one of the things that's really important, and when we're on national calls with other performing arts centers, with other institutions that present creativity, one of the things that's been spoken over and over and over again by African communities throughout the country, and through, you know, the consciousness of leaders in the industry, both Black and white, that we all recognize and know that it's so very important for young people to see themselves on stage, to see themselves and have creative experiences that they can relate to. And for those whom may be experiencing something from the Black experience for the very first time that comes from one of our other communities, you know, it's important. That's how we learn about each other. That's how we're empowered. That's an important thing. I had an experience where I went to a dance conference a number of years ago. You know, and I've been involved in the arts my whole life. And I had the opportunity to hear John Parks speak, not only as an artist, but also as a historian, and know, based upon the experiences that he had and the opportunity that he had, and the light that he brought to the stage as a member of the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, that young people got a chance to see themselves through his inspiration. And he continues to be an inspiration here in the Tampa Bay area. John, thank you so much for being a part of this panel this evening. We so appreciate it.
Thank you, Fred. And thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel and speak. I am reminded that the arts are the soothsayers and prophets of the time. The artists reflect the present and project the future while documenting the past. And so in relationship to the Stras and artists in the community, this is a fit and nice welcoming union in terms of the performing arts, Stras Center, and also the community. As been stated before, you know, the Black community is always embracing the arts. And Judy and your staff has always embraced diversity and the community. I'm reminded of a conversation I had with Fred. I hope you don't mind me sharing it, that Judy, you had with Fred, and where you mentioned that you want to go beyond Ephesus and you want to go beyond where we are now. And this was before all of these other things has happened. The Community Arts Ensemble, which you know, I had the honor to work with in terms of Fred and Katura, you know, 200 kids, 200 people, not only kids, ages, you know, a year old to 74, who haven't had any experience before in terms of the arts. And, you know, they learn lines, they learn songs, they learn blocking, they learn all the areas of the stage. They worked on costumes, they worked on sets. It was really an incredible experience. Where the Stras has opened itself up to the community at large. The arts ensemble, the arts legacy that embraces the community. I think that these 10 points is a bold and courageous platform that doesn't only state something, but states an action to what is being done. And so I really applaud you guys. I embrace the platform. I feel really honored, and I'm emotional about it, because it's been something this kind of thing has been almost like my life's work in terms of using the arts and as something that is performance-based, but also is educational, therapeutic, and enlightening, and connecting normal people, everyday people, to an arts discipline.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. I just want to say one short thing, and then we're going to go to questions. I want everybody listening to feel in their heart and know, and I'm going to try to do this without being too emotional. This is for all of us. This is for all of us. This is for the Tampa Bay community. You know, maybe for the first time in my 70 years, it feels like people are listening to themselves in a different way. People are listening to each other's stories. People who have lived the life of privilege are seeing and hearing and understanding on a new level. So to move forward together, to empower all of our communities to understand and feel and know each other more, is important for all of us. It's important for every citizen of Tampa Bay to know and realize that the gift that we have of this institution affords us an opportunity to go beyond our thinking and move into a place of feeling, and an opportunity to create together. This is not just for the benefit of, folks who have unfortunately been the victims of disadvantage. If one of us is suffering, then truly all of us are suffering. I think COVID-19 has demonstrated that to us, has awakened us to the fact that we have to depend upon each other. It's important. I've had the grace of traveling all over the world, and I've been in countries where people wanted to rip each other's heads off. But the minute that they were given the opportunity to look into each other's eyes and learn about each other and share each other's stories, their hearts shifted. What we want to be at the Stras Center is a part of a heart shifting. This is not just for the Black community. The contribution of having the opportunity to share stories together enriches all of us, so we can move past the boundaries. We can transcend the boundaries that have divided us, oftentimes when we didn't even realize the subtlety of it. So to have this sharing is an opportunity for us to grow together, to know together. And that's, everything that you see around you is the byproduct of someone's imagination. Let's give ourselves the opportunity to learn and imagine and manifest a new way of being together. So this conversation and this commitment is for all of Tampa. As we come together and share and learn together and dispel some of the myths and misunderstandings that we think we have, then we all grow. This is for all of us, and it's the greatest thing that we can all give ourselves. Alice, let's take some time now, and we're going to go a little bit over, but I think this is important. We have some questions that folk have sent in prior to this evening's town hall. So will you share some of those questions, and then collectively, our body of panel here will endeavor to answer those questions.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to say that we received overwhelming amount of responses the moment we put out that we were going to have this town hall. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who did submit questions, and we did our best to condense those down to try to get as many as we could answered this evening. So the first one that we received is, what are our plans to diversify the board and the executive team at the Stras Center?
I'll start, and then folk can add. In conversations that we have had, some of the first steps is to really expand our network, expand our reach into the community. Oftentimes when a conversation is had in terms of, how do we get more people of color on the board, a part of that is this beginning, a beginning of a new conversation and the beginning of a new inclusion of members of the community who can outreach, who can reach out to members of our community who can be given the opportunity to more greatly understand the contribution and the intention and the amazing outcomes that our institution is doing and can do to an even greater degree. So one of the things is to widen our net, is to really expand our net to colleagues and folk throughout Tampa Bay who know of and can recommend people that would be amazing candidates to be considered to talk to see if they'll come and be a part of our board. I know that, and I know, Judy and Lauren and Suzanne, you guys can expound upon this, but, in terms of our HR and beginning to understand and even living into some new practices to understand how other institutions are doing it, because it is there's a great commitment, a large commitment. So it's really about expanding who we communicate with, expanding our understanding of the importance of how do we attract and how do we have new conversations with new folk that have not been in the circle of influence or in the circle of knowingness as it relates to the Stras Center. And again, given that technically we're closed now, we have the opportunity to begin to have those conversations, to talk more broadly regionally, to really consult with our colleagues around the country, to understand, learn new practices and unique practices, and listen to people who are doing those kinds of hiring every day. And even help, one of the biggest things that I've come to realize is many folk just don't understand. They think of the theater and they think of performance. They don't understand how, if I'm an attorney or if I'm involved in business, or, if I'm involved in, that my contribution can be broad and great and have nothing to do with me walking on the stage, or maybe not even having that great an overall knowledge, and be given the opportunity to learn by being a part of the inner circle of the center. So it's definitely recruitment, expanding our network, speaking to people that are experts in those fields. Listening and learning is a big part of the first part of the process. Anyone want to add?
And Judy, yes.
Got to unmute you.
Unmute thank you. First of all, Fred and panelists, you've all been so terrific. I just have trying to take it all in. But regarding the staff and the board, I can tell you the board governance committee has as one of its major objectives to have more people of color on the board. And it was interesting. I just read an article recently about was about an African-American very successful person who was on many, many, many boards. He said, but I'm the only one. He said, there's many, many, many great people out there. So we've got to connect. And as Fred said, we have so many talented people that I know would like to serve on the board. And we're having a governance committee in the next couple of weeks. We have as one of our initiatives to make sure we do a much better job of a representation in our community. So please let us know. As Fred said, we want to know, either email me, you can see how, find out how to email me on our website. And I might be picking up the phone and calling a few people out there. So get ready. But it's a great board and it's a great institution. And that's how we're going to change. We're going to change by having a board that wants to make this a great institution that is transformative. And we are going to transform. So let's be a part of it. We'll be a part of it together. Regarding leadership, executive leadership here, I think that's one of the biggest issues we have with institutions like ours. We have Fred as one of our executives, but in most places, like on sports teams, same thing. Why are not people at the top of the organization? Why are they all white? Why don't we have more people of color? We have them on our stages. We have them on our teams. Where are they? So one of our action steps, as you know, is to provide professional development opportunities so that we can make sure that we mentor and give opportunities to learn how to run places like this, how to make them wonderful places. So that's definitely one of our action steps. And we want to do better. We haven't done good enough. We want to do better, and we're going to.
Very good.
One
Thank you,
thing
Judy. Yeah, Lauren.
one thing that I've learned is to be intentional means to intentionally put yourself in places you may not know or you need to discover. Networks that exist, business networks, for example, that exist. I really enjoy, Bob, the Toba breakfast every year because I'm in a room not only with my fellow leaders in the Tampa area, but another whole layer, a rich layer of leadership. And I've learned that you go to different places, you recruit when you're recruiting for jobs in different manners. And so to echo what Fred was saying at the beginning of this little segment is networking and broadening your networks.
Great. Thank you. Next question, Alice.
Yes. As we enter a new school year, what are our plans to make classes affordable for children coming from low economic status homes during this pandemic and after? Does the Stras classes provide scholarships, and do the performances provide discounts to community members who can't afford them?
Suzanne?
Yes. So yes, we do. We offer scholarships. We give typically, in the past, we've given over $300,000 in scholarships throughout the school year and the summers. And that this past year, we actually had a wonderful relationship with the Children's Board of Hillsborough County. And because of COVID, we weren't able to provide the on-site camps that we've done in the past, for especially last summer. But we look forward to being able to reinstitute that again next summer. If we're able to get the same agreement, we would love that, because it was a really wonderful through line to provide opportunities for students who otherwise wouldn't have access to the summer camps that we offer. And then actually Alice, our moderator, can answer our question about tickets. We offer many through our productions with the conservatory and with any of our teaching artists that, any of our artists that come in and do performances and provide outreaches. But then we also have some performances and ticketed opportunities for our Broadway shows, which I'll let Alice talk about.
Yes. So we also have a education partnership program that currently spans over 4 counties with 52 different partners. And pre-COVID, what that program allowed was for us to provide access to free arts education in schools or after school programs or nursing homes. You name the gambit, we were there. We've shifted the whole platform now virtual, and we were also able to offer through those programs discounted tickets or completely free tickets to be able to come and see shows. We went from Broadway to opera to dance performances, and at times even helping bus students to be able to come to the center to see their first show.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much. So there are a tremendous amount of opportunities, and one of the advantages of continually every month having the opportunity to come together in the town hall is more and more people are informed about that. More and more people more greatly understand the reach and can help us to understand how we can expand our reach so that it becomes a much more well understood conversation and involvement, to the point of which we are going to, as we stated in one of our 10 points, have a community advisory committee, so that we really, really are more broadly talking to the community, so that more and more people are coming forward to take advantage of those scholarships, because it really is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah. I did want to say, Fred, if I could,
Sure.
I have to take this opportunity to thank all of our donors in the community. It's because of their generosity that we're able to do all of these wonderful programs.
Yes.
There are so many generous people in this community who care, and they support specifically the scholarship program, our partnership programs, our 52 partnerships that Alice was saying, and these free tickets that are available to our community. And I need to honor them because they really care.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Alice, let's take a couple more questions and then we'll have to close.
Yeah. How can the arts build bridges during this difficult time?
I think art is already building bridges during this difficult time. I mean, when COVID first hit and people were home and couldn't go out, I think it was the art community, the artists that sang and people that created art and poets and spoken word folk and organizations that had archived material, made that material available. Families are singing together. Families are creating plays together, drawing together. I think if we ever needed an example of how important creativity is, COVID-19 has given us the opportunity to do that. Specifically, as it relates to where we are with a new conversation and a new level of seeking to understand, we have a tremendous opportunity now to learn from each other, a tremendous opportunity to create works of art that speak to where our hearts need to go, that speak to more deeply understanding the things that are different about us that make the human experience important, unique, and beautiful. That's what artists are about. That's what we do. And as institutions, we house that. And so we can foster another level of that engagement, help to dispel some of the myths and mysteries, help to amplify some of the beauty of the mystery, and most importantly, create beauty together. So I happen to believe that art and artists, we have a tremendous opportunity now, and arts institutions to be catalysts for transformation. And this is what we're talking about and working on doing every day. Let's take one more.
What steps do we take next to move beyond conversations to actions in order to positively change our culture?
I think one of those steps is right now. We've started that. We start to talk to each other. We start to make the community aware of the fact that we are here and that we're having important conversations and taking a look at infrastructure changes. We're listening to our community members, continuing to reach out and be in touch with community members, to have leaders like our panelists that are with us tonight that can help to guide us. Every month, we'll take a look at honoring an artist. We'll take a look at having a broad conversation. So I think it begins there. As we've said a couple of times tonight, the institution itself, we're not open, but we are open and working and learning and shifting and reaching out and trying to be engaged on as many national levels as we can, so that any information or any opportunity that we can be in the middle of or that we can help to lead and most importantly be a part of will begin this transition now. And again, I think the most important step that not only those of us at the Stras Center and those of you that are with us tonight, but that every citizen of our community needs to really, really open our hearts and our minds and trust, to recognize that we've stumbled and we've made some steps along the way. Many of us have made it in spite of, but our commitment towards manifesting, and this is my opportunity to honor John Lewis. John Lewis, whose funeral was today, who we lost, after 33 years in Congress and a whole life from the age of 20 years old of a commitment to keep moving forward at great sacrifice many times, to keep moving forward. When things were said about him that he knew wasn't true, he kept moving forward. When the opportunity presented itself for him to look into someone's eyes and give them the opportunity to see his humanity, even if they were about to hit him upside of the head, we have to keep moving forward together. We have to recognize that some of the things that we're most fearful of are those barriers that once we move beyond, we can be greater than. So it's a shared commitment that all of us are involved. And those of us at this point who disagree, it's important for us to compassionately understand that that disagreement is an opportunity for us to reach forward, reach towards each other. Because if we don't move towards each other, if we don't recognize that we are responsible for each other, whether we're an artist or a doctor or a lawyer or a mom or a dad or whomever, that we must move forward together. You know, this is what creativity is all about. We have the opportunity to create a new way, and we're committed to that. We want to take just a minute. You know, in September, we're going to really dedicate a whole hour to John Lewis. You know, he has this amazing documentary, Good Trouble, and we're going to try to make it possible to be able to gain access to that. But we do have a short 2-minute clip. And, you know, as we watch this clip that honors John Lewis and really talks about his life and talks about Good Trouble, in our hearts, let's just remember the great man that he was, the great changes that he manifested, and the fact that he lays a foundation for us and lays a goal for us to be as committed to freedom and right action for all. So Alice, can we play that clip?
My philosophy is very simple. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something, get in trouble, good trouble, necessary trouble.
He was always different than every member of Congress. Everybody knew what he had done. He was John Lewis.
We're marching today to dramatize to the world that hundreds and thousands of Negro citizens denied the right to vote.
Congressman Lewis gave us the blueprint to organize and to legislate.
The reason why he's effective as a leader is because he lived it.
We made a decision to march in an orderly, peaceful, nonviolent fashion from Selma to Montgomery.
You are ordered to disperse. That march will not continue.
I was hit in the head. My knees went from under me. I thought I was going to down the bridge.
If John Lewis, as a 19, 20-year-old, wasn't doing what he did, I would not be here.
We will march with the spirit of love and with the spirit of dignity that we have shown here today.
The whole time he was in the movement, it was frightening, knowing the danger, knowing what could happen.
You cannot replace a John Lewis.
He's the most courageous person I ever met.
Too many people struggled and died to make it possible for every American to exercise their right to vote.
He challenges the conscience of the Congress.
Bring common sense gun control legislation to the House floor.
40 years later, John Lewis continues to inspire us.
Are you with me? Let me hear you. 3 civil rights workers that were murdered for trying to help people get registered to vote are looking down on us.
This is a time for action. That's what I learned from John Lewis.
There are forces in America today want to take us back, but we're not going back. We're going forward.
Thank you, John Lewis, for the amazing example that you were. We honor you. And the greatest thing that we can do is do all that we can to make sure that his living legacy is remembered and that we will move forward from where we are now with love and with trust and with dignity and with honor. I want to thank each and every one of you who joined us this evening on Facebook Live. I want to thank everyone on our panel who are here. Thank you, Alice, for all your tremendous hard work to put this together. Thank you, Judy, for the vision and the support as we move forward to make this happen. I want to thank you, Ms. Jerry Kelly, John Parks, Bob Morrison, Fred Hearns, Lauren Shepard, Suzanne Livesay, and Anthony, our interpreter, who has been here with us all evening, really supporting us. We can move forward together as a community. We can really manifest a great experience for everyone, and that's what it's really all about. Next month, we will gather again and announcements will go out. Please join us. We will, along with having a community conversation, we will be honoring Dr. Bernard Lafayette, who worked side by side with John Lewis, who worked side by side with Dr. King, who is still upholding the banner of Kingian nonviolence and is still making his mark in the world. And he is from Tampa, Florida. So we're going to do everything in our power to have Dr. Lafayette with us. We hope that you all will join us as well. Please share with us your comments, and please know that this intention as we move forward is to empower our entire community to be the best that we can be, to create at the highest level that we can create, and to make sure that inclusion and diversity and equity and access is available for all. I'm Fred Johnson from the Stras Center. Thank you all so very, very, very much. Have a safe evening, rest well, stay strong, and we look forward to being back making art in the very near future. We'll see you next month. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Good night, all. Take care.